Hey guys, welcome to the channel. My name is Jason with SHW Overland. Today we have my 2022 diesel Gladiator Rubicon, and we are going to do the rear brakes, and we're going to take apart the front brakes. We're right about 40,000 miles. We're going to take apart the front brakes and clean the slide pins, re-lube them, and make sure the pads float freely. So let's go.
I'm coming.
Please like and subscribe. Let's go.
Well, ladies and gents, we're at 40,000 miles. Rear brake pad. That is 2 millimeters right there. She is due for service. 40,000 miles. Been to Moab and Colorado Alpine Loop twice. Been all the way down to Florida, all the way up to Tennessee, Virginia. So I got my life out of them. So we got brand new OEM Mopar brake pads. We are going to turn the rotors. The fronts are still at about 6, so we're probably still good on that for another 6 months before we do another big trip out west. Rear diff, we just did the front diff. We are doing the transmission fluid at 40,000 miles, but I'm waiting for the PPE transmission pan that I want, because it not only adds an extra quart of trans fluid, but it has a service port on it too, so we don't have to change the filter every 30,000 miles. We can go every other, because that's pretty much what I want to do, is go every other. And then we're also changing the oil. We already rotated the tires. We already did the front diff. Excuse all the mess from the oil I spilled. Lubed her up, lubed the steering components. And that should do it for 40,000 miles. We replaced the cabin filter, air filter. We got this new rough country frame sliders. It's a good view of the underside that will actually be doing the sliding. Very smooth. And hopefully my machine could turn these with them still in the car. And here's what you gotta look out for. So your slide pins need to move freely like that. This one is stuck, not moving. So it's not frozen, it's just, all right, so we got it out. This is the top one. Now the bottom one has a rubber grommet in there, but we're gonna clean all that lube off and put new lube on there. And then we also gotta push in the caliper. And let's check these ones. So that's the problem, is all the grit and dust gets in there. Now this is across the platform, Toyota. My Toyota was bad about this. So the smooth one goes on top. All right, so this one came right out, but see, look how clean that is. So either there wasn't enough lube on there, but that would explain why that side, the brakes were worn out all the way. And this should help increase brake pedal feel. We're gonna clean out the inside of that. I don't know how good we can get a light in there. We'll clean that out with that wire brush. All right, we took pliers, we compressed the caliper. Sometimes if your boot is starting to fill with air because it's not escaping, you can take a small pick and just go in between the seal and there, and it'll let the air escape out. Same with this side, but what we're gonna do is we're gonna swap the slide pins, and then we're gonna take the brackets off so we can cut the rotors. So it looks like 17, I believe, but let's see here. Before we do that, we gotta probably fill the diff fluid up. All right, so this is the grease that I use, the super high temp air grease. This is a Honda product, but it is a synthetic grease for brakes, and the heat temperature on it is something stupid high. It used to say right on here. Yeah, so we're gonna lube the slide pins with it. All right, so we're turning the rotors, basically putting a fresh layer on the rotors, basically cutting a little bit of a layer off the rotors. This is called turning the rotors. I did this side just now. It is ultra smooth. So the brand new brake pads have fresh gripping power. I mean, new rear brake pads. These are the Mopar ones compared to the ones that came off. Quite a bit of difference there. Again, this is 40,000 miles on a 2022 Jeep Gladiator Rubicon. Heavy off-road use. There's the part number. 40,000 miles. I had that slide pin on the caliper locked up, which kind of wore it out a little bit quicker. I think you probably get 50 to 60,000 miles off a rear set, probably closer to 70 on the front. My fronts are still at like 6 or 7 millimeters, whereas in the rears we're at 2. But you see how cutting a fresh layer on there. This is a Pro Cut on-car brake lathe. I think these retail for about 15 grand. But definitely one of the best cuts you can get with a brake lathe, because it actually calibrates to the wheel, to the hub itself, any kind of variation in the bearing or in the hub. So you get the smoothest braking possible, because you're cutting true to the axle. So ideally, to prevent these slide pins from locking up, typically it's called a B service with American Honda. But what you do is every time you rotate the tires, you take the brake pads off and make sure they freely move, and you re-lube slide pins. I use that Honda high temp Euro grease, which has an extremely high temperature rating, but you can also use True Glide. That works good too. I tend to stay away from the Molly coat. It doesn't do well with the high temp. That's just my experience. Do what you want. So we're gonna finish this up, and then every time we rotate the tires from here on out, we're definitely gonna take the brakes apart and prolong the life of the pads by making sure that everything moves freely. I'm normally really good about that, but I've never ran into this issue, especially with a new car. But you also have to think, we do a lot of water crossings, mud, off-roading. The mud and all the water crossings really get everything gummed up under here. So definitely something that we need to do. So anyway, we got a very nice cut on here. And nice and smooth. I'm gonna rotate that, make sure we got a good cut all the way around. And now the brake pads have a fresh surface to brake into. And let's get it all back together. Well, this is really cool. So it has springs loaded in there. So as you can see, the pads are not exactly on the rotor. So if the brake pad, if the caliper squeezes, they actually spring back. That is genius in fuel economy. I never noticed that. Our Hondas don't do that, I'll tell you that. But that is awesome until they get all gunked up, I guess. That's why it's important to, every time you rotate, to take the pads out and make sure it all moves freely like this. Otherwise, you're gonna wear it down. So we re-lubed all that. All right, so after doing the rear, I decided to take apart the front just to clean them out. So this is caliper. As you can see, these are not moving. They're not, the springs are locked up, and as you can see, we have debris in here. And what I'm gonna do is pop these out. Sometimes it helps with a plastic trim tool just to kind of get them loose. So as you can see, got gunk in there, dirt all over on this end too. Now these pads are at half-life, so that's about 730 seconds. So let's get an official measurement. My eye gauges aren't what they used to be. So let me grab, that's a 6 right there. So, you know, all the way up against that, and that's an 8. So there's still a little bit on there. So 6, that's about half-life. So we'll probably easily get another 10,000-15,000 out of that. Probably replace these before we do a trip out west. Yeah, so we got some grooves on that one. That's the inner pad. So kind of clean these up a little bit. And let's just see the junk. I mean, look at that. Some light in there. I mean, all that crud was just sitting in there. Just gonna clear that out a little bit. And that's why you should get the Mopar ones, because they come with the little spring things, and you know the spring things are going to wear out. Time, you know, usage, and then we're going to pop these off and re-lube them, because you know grease does break down. So we are putting ultra high temp synthetic grease in them compared to whatever probably factory stuff that they put in them. So just pull these out. Both of these have the rubber boots in them, so it really is important to use the right one. So we're gonna clean that off and put some high temp stuff on it. Push the caliper in just a little bit. And if you live in the northern states, it's a good idea to pop these off and use a wire brush and clean the actual base, because sometimes you get corrosion in there. I mean, look at all that crud. So it looks like they use kind of a clear, probably that Sil Glide stuff that I have in there. All right, let me clean that up and put it back together. All right, so when you do your tire rotations, this is what you want. You want that flutter. That tells you that everything's freed up. You want to make sure that these move nice and free. And put it all back together, good to go. One important thing is you torque these to spec. So the two big bolts that hold the whole caliper bracket on, that's actually 94 or 92 foot-pounds of torque, which is actually more torque than what I do by hand, than what feels tight. Like you tighten it by hand, you're like, oh, that's tight. But no. Put the torque wrench on it, and I probably turned it at another half a rotation. And it's 27 foot-pounds for these little guys. Snug these up. We'll get this. $27 foot-pounds. There we go. Got them all torqued down. We're gonna put the wheels on, torque those down, put oil in it. Make sure the differentials are, make sure the car's completely on the ground so the differentials are even. We're gonna check the rear diff fluid level, because if you fill it up while it's in the air, that axle, the fill hole, you won't put enough in. So, almost done. All right, guys, so pretty much that's how you do your rear brakes and your brake maintenance, which is really important every other time you change your oil, or if you do change your oil every 6,000 miles, like myself, I rotate every 6,000 miles. So that's when you want to pull the brakes apart and take the brake pads out of the caliper brackets and make sure everything floats freely, the slide pins move freely, so that way you won't prematurely wear your brakes out, and you will have a better brake pedal feel, and you can possibly save yourself a new caliper bracket. So we're gonna get this all tidied up. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe. Check out my other adventure videos, my other install videos, anything Jeep, Gladiator, Eco Diesel maintenance. I probably have done it, and we still have a drive belt to put on because mine makes noise on cold starts now, 40,000 miles. And we're gonna do a transmission service, but I'm waiting for the updated transmission drain pan. Basically, it's a PPE pan. It allows you to hold an extra quart and a half of trans fluid, but it also has a serviceable drain plug on it, so you can drain and fill it without dropping the pan and doing the filter and all that, which typically what I'm going to do is change the filter every other 30, so every 60,000 miles change the filter, every 30,000 miles just do a drain and refill. That way we're not just, you know, over maintaining the car, because already that's kind of over maintaining. Anyway, another video on that soon. All right, so whenever I change the oil, I also change trip B of my odometer. So as you can see here, this oil change, I want 5,700 miles. So we're gonna reset that. Now that we got fresh oil in there. And then that's trip A, that's what I use for fuel. So then we're gonna scroll down to number 2. After we change the oil, we drive around with the oil pressure gauge up just to monitor. Sometimes if the oil filter is soft set, your oil pressure will be half of that. And you might, the background will light up red or whatever, you know, if you have an issue. But one time, I think it was the second day of driving it after I changed the oil, the thing was soft set. So I had to just loosen the oil filter up again and just re-torque it, and it fixed the oil pressure issue. And I have heard other people having that same issue. So we're gonna scroll back over to we're gonna fill that up. I'm gonna scroll over to oil life and hold OK to reset. Oh, it's gotta be in, engine can't be running. 1, 2. All right. And hold OK to reset. Bingo. Good to go for another 6,000 miles. Let's check the rear diff fluid, re-torque the wheels since we moved, call it a night. If you really like our videos and want to support us financially, join our Patreon, where for just a couple dollars a month, the price of a cup of coffee, you can have your name in the video and help us out with new camera equipment so we can provide better quality content for y'all. Thanks and have a great night.